Yes, folks. Hello, welcome once again to Monster Games and Collectibles. It's time for another action figure review here on the channel. And as you can see on the screen in front of you right now, today's installment is going to be taking a closer look at the brand new G.I. Joe Classified Series Dawn Moreno figure. So stick around, I'm going to give you all the ins and outs, ups and downs that you need to know. So if you've been thinking about picking up Dawn Moreno for yourself, you'll have good, thorough information to make a purchase decision around. We'll kick things off by jumping back in time and visiting past Chris, who's going to take a look at the packaging on the day that she arrived on my doorstep. Then we'll move into the figure herself and talk about the aesthetic and the visual experience, talk about the articulation and the posability, have a rundown of all the accessories and decide whether they're added value, and then pop her next to a couple of other G.I. Joe Classified Series figures to see how she fits in the collection. And with all that said and done, you should have plenty of information to know whether Dawn Moreno is the figure you want to crack your wallet or purse open with. So let's get into it, and let's jump back in time to visit past Chris, taking a look at the box on the day that she arrived. Here we go. Okay then, folks, well, here is Snake Eyes bracket Dawn Moreno in packaging, and as you can see, it's the standard G.I. Joe Classified Series packaging we've seen for a while now. Got the G.I. Joe Classified Series logo on the bottom, the Joe symbol to indicate she's a good guy character, got the name in the top left-hand corner, G.I. Joe Snake Eyes Dawn Moreno, the carbon fiber style design in the artwork, and then the window on the front showing off the figure and all the goodies. On the back there, we can see she's 197 in the line, got the digital render of the action shot of Dawn Moreno doing actiony things. That location might be a wee little Easter egg, actually. Then we've got two breakout windows with the head sculpt and the sword backpack being, featured. The legal bollocks and malarkey across the bottom. Import sticker there. Shout out to In-Demand Toys here in the UK once again for my early imports. And then the file card information. Let's learn more about Dawn Moreno together, shall we, folks? And first up, ladies and gents, Dawn Moreno, I don't know if you knew this or not, it's in the lore, check it happens in the comics. She's a massive fan of He-Man and She-Ra, and she's particularly excited about the release of the new movie. And these first two symbols indicate that. There's Skeletor, and there's the Sword of Power for you. Now, to the uninitiated, this might look like an eye with a line through it, indicating her stealth, her sneakiness, but it's not actually. If you look carefully, you'll see that it's two ocarinas laid side by side. Dawn Moreno's a musician. She loves playing ocarinas. She enters like competitive ocarina playing face-offs. And that's the lore indicator there in the file card. And then finally, this one, don't know what that is a mess. I think Dawn must have a young niece or something who's given her smartwork to put on the fridge, because I can't make out what that is at all. Then on the side of the box, we've got the number again and some artwork. Not too bad at all, this one, actually. I'll give this one credit where credit's due. I quite like the action pose they've got Dawn in on this one. And then on the other side, all the repeat bollocks and the QR code to nowhere. So there we go, folks. There's the peek at Dawn Moreno in packaging for the minting box folks, or people interested in the peg presence of the figure. But I'm not minting box. I'm going to get Dawn cracked open, going to get some good quality man-child playtime in, have her hanging around as a desk figure for a bit, pose her up, take some photos, get her in display with some other characters from my G.I. Joe Classified collection, see how she fits. And throughout all that, I'll jot down some review thoughts to share with you all. So stick around, because future Chris's could come back and do that sharing in 3, 2, 1. All right then, folks, on to the review section of the video now. And here is Dawn Moreno, the full head-to-toe view as she came out of packaging. And as you can see, they've gone for a very strong comic book-inspired aesthetic on the figure there. If you're looking for a comic book-accurate Dawn Moreno, then, yeah, this is pretty much bang on the money, isn't it? More or less. Certainly all those kind of key identifying features that you'd associate with the character. A Real American Hero readers will recognize that black uniform with the red trimming, that red padded trimming on it, and the wrist braces, the thigh guards, and the facial design as well. Although obviously there's the head swap in the kind of more iconic looking Snake Eyes style helmet as well. So yeah, overall a good figure in terms of shelf presence, certainly representing the character in a very comic book accurate way. Moving in a bit closer then, we can see the head sculpt here. It's a nice head sculpt with facial features sculpted in up to the usual standard of G.I. Joe Classified Series. Got lovely paint applications there on the eyes and the eyebrows. The eyes really pop, actually. Enjoying that stare very, very much. But yeah, good facial features, nice and unique as well across the line. Well, looks like an unmasked Dawn Moreno from the comic book, although obviously different artists had slightly different interpretations over the years. The hair sculpt is nice, got a little kind of draped bang bit coming down. She's got it tied up practically at the back to keep it out of her eyes when she's doing ninja maneuvers, and good sculpting in the hair as well. So yeah, overall, a very good head sculpt. Nice look for the figure. Moving further down into the body, we can see she's got this armoured section here at the top. Got the Articulation symbol painted in the red on top of a kind of metallic painted section there. So nice little detail paint application. And then the sculpted detail of the straps and the shoulders and such like. The black is a bit shiny. Got a little bit of shiny chest syndrome going on there, Dawn, because as you move down into the body, you can see the blacks are more matte in the rest of the uniform. But you can see we've got the sculpted padded details in here down the side, top of the thighs here, and on the inside of the forearms. And then this is a loose belt over the top there with a painted belt buckle, folks. Love a good painted belt buckle in a nice metallic shiny paint application, and sculpted details on the pockets and pouches. Forearms have got these braces on them. These have got little sculpted details in them too. And again, a nice metallic paint application on those, as well as on the knee pads and shin guards. Just breaking up the black a bit, giving it a splash of colour. But you can see these little like dents and stuff in them, showing that they've seen a little bit of action. Little bits of texture detail in and around as well. You can see this like bunching up of her trousers around the knee pads and the top of the boots like they would do naturally. And around the back here, you can see these little pulls and stretches as well, giving it more texture detail. You can see that creasing around the back here a little bit more as well. Got an interesting, very practical footwear choice as well, with grips not just on the bottom of the sole, but around the heels and on the front as well. Obviously, out of your kind of ninja catalogue and ninja gear. Also got a thigh holster for the pistol. We've seen this before. Got the space to hold the pistol and the space for the suppressor there, which is strapped around. Just plain black plastic, but some sculpted details to bring it to life as well. And it doesn't clash too greatly against the detail of the black in the uniform. Some of the red paint applications, not so great. I don't know if you can see where there's sort of black bits in between and a bit of paint chip there. I don't know if what they've tried to do is apply a wash down it, because you can see on the inside of this forearm, for example, the black line. So I don't know if they tried to put a bit of a wash down it and it's just gone a bit wrong. And actually on mine, that's how it looks on mine, but others, might be better. So instead of giving it the detail that I think they were trying to do, it's just made it look a little bit messy. But, you don't notice it unless you really kind of honed in on it. So overall, aesthetically, I haven't got a great deal else to say. She is a little bit plain in some respects, but in the right way, because they've gone for the comic book accurate look of the figure. They've certainly found opportunities to slip a bit of detail in there and bring it to life in the three-dimensional form, which I'm grateful for. I like this little Arashikage kind of clasp thing at the top, which is the red paint on top of the metallic silver paint. Gives it a little bit of extra touch. She's got nice symmetry, making her pleasing to the eye, and she looks like she does in the comic book. I'm not, and I'm not sure what else anyone would want beyond that. I'm certainly happy to have a comic book accurate version of Dawn Moreno in the collection. So yeah, thumbs up aesthetically. I think she does what she says on the tin. Just a big solid slab of boom. There you go. There's a 6-inch plastic interpretation of a popular character from the comics. All right, well, there you go. There's the aesthetic. Let's now take a look at the articulation and posability, shall we? And as always, folks, I'll start by this section of the review by pointing out that it's standard female G.I. Joe classified series articulation, well, contemporary female articulation. So if you're already familiar with that, you don't need to know any more, then please avail yourself of the timestamps that I put in. There's chapters available to jump forward and take a look at the accessories and added value section of the review. However, if this is the first ever G.I. Joe classified series review of a female character you've ever seen, or you'd like to know if there's any particular quirks, stick around, I'll walk you through it, and we'll get started by looking up top at the head. And Dawn comes with a ball at the base of the skull and a ball at the base of the neck, giving you forward down to there, back up to there, full 360 all the way around, and loads of tilt and movement on the ball in the skull. And that remains the same for the head swap as well, which we'll be having a look in a bit, other than the ponytail that gets in the way a little bit. Coming down into the body, there is a butterfly joint underneath this top piece there, although the movement's not fantastic on the forward and back shuffle. And then we've got the peg and the hinge, giving you full 360 all the way around and a T-shape out to there. Swivel here at the top of the bicep and tricep. Pinless double elbow that will get you up to there. And then pegged in hands that can move at the wrist with both sides having foot up and down hinges on them. The way the bracer is sculpted across the back does get in the way of you swiveling around a little bit. Into the torso, it's the barbell joint under the boobs and then the ball joint in the waist. So you got some crunch forward, some crunch back, and then loads of tilt and swivel at both those points in there. Into the legs, drop down joint in the groin and hips. So you can come down like so, come forward like this. Oh, the thigh holsters come loose there. And you can get the Russian ballet splits out to there. Swivel at the top of the thigh there. Pinless double knee that'll get you up to there. Got the boot cut at the top of the boot line. And then the hinge and rocker for the feet and ankles, although your forward is a little bit restricted by the armor-plated line of these shin guards here. So Dawn articulates well, thumbs up on the second A in the review there. She definitely opens up the world of possibility for your sort of martial artsy ninja style poses that you might be looking to do with her in display, like you might be looking to do with her when you take photographs with your figures and such like. So that's all good. I mean, it's not quite up there with like Jada Toys standard where you can get her doing a kick on one foot, but it's still pretty damn good. So yeah, overall, I think it's solid. Good thumbs up. I like the female book on G.I. Joe Classified. It works for me. So there we go. Okay, so that was the articulation. Let's now take a look at the accessories and added value, shall we? And let's start off this section with the head swap. Here you can see that iconic Dawn Moreno Snake Eyes helmet look, which I think is much more of a visual identifying feature than the mask-free face, although I do appreciate that they've thrown in both for us. So you can see it's got that classic Snake Eyes design that Dawn Moreno wears, although her mouth is uncovered as it is in the comic books. She's got that visor across the front there, the Snake Eyes style visor, in the matching red colour scheme to the rest of the red on the uniform. Good contours in the mask, the way it comes over the top of her head, and you can see those like stitching lines and stuff in the mask. Good sculpt of the lips there, nice facial features. And then you've got this wisp of hair coming down the back there on the figure in a nice kind of flowing, flicky action style pose. So your movement is still more or less the same, but obviously because of the way the hair's draped at the back, upwards is affected somewhat, but you can use the barbell joint to get your upwards look. So yeah, that really finishes off the look there. The head swap, much more iconic Dawn Moreno look from all those later A Real American Hero covers that we all know and love. Then Dawn comes with a couple of katanas. I think these are katanas. In line with the ninja weapon loadout that we see her use in the comic books there. Got the nice metallic paint application across the blades and then the black handles there. These are nice long handles actually for two-handed gripping of the swords, which is quite nice. So these are fine and dandy. One note though, I don't know if you saw it just there, it started to happen on this one. I'm getting this paint chip again, guys. I've had Dawn now for 3 days in total, and I've obviously been playing around with her a bit as a desk figure and taking some photos. And I've started to get the paint chip, just like I did with Budo and who else was it? Someone else's blade recently paint chipped loads on me too. So there's definitely something going on with the paint applications on the blades. Dawn then has a couple of knife sheaths that can peg into a peg hole at the back. Quite a short peg, I'll show you in a second. Quite a short peg, but it sits all right on it. We've got the black sword sheaths with the red wrapping tying them together, and then the black decal there with the Arashikage symbol on it. The swords fit in a very particular way, actually. They sort of go in the opposite direction than you might normally be used to. But they go like so, which is fine. And then the other thing I note is that the way the hair comes down the back makes it a little bit difficult to work around. You can get them in while she's wearing the hair, but then you can only really have the head in one very particular, very specific positioning. Then Dawn comes with the signature Snake Eyes Uzi. We've seen this before. Kamakura had one. Snake Eyes, various Snake Eyes have had them. That's all fine and obviously ties into the storyline of the character from the comic books with Snake Eyes being programmed in her head. And she also comes with a 9mm pistol, just like Snake Eyes does. I think, is that a Beretta? I want to say. I know folks tell me all the time in the comments and I go and forget. But we've seen this before several times, that single molded piece of plastic, little 9mm with the suppressor that fits on the barrel with the little barrel hole in it. Like so. Now, the Uzi doesn't have on-figure storage, but the pistol does. Goes in this holster here, and then you put the suppressor in this hoop here. One thing I have noticed is that the pistol sits really loose in that holster. Really loose in that holster. I can't remember who had it originally and what pistol they carry, but this, I find it falls out a lot and comes loose, which is just annoying, you know, when you're taking a picture and then you realise like the pistol's hanging out a bit like that. So overall, it's a decent accessory selection. It's sort of your standard ninja loadout that we've seen. Like I say, Snake Eyes, Kamakura, etc., etc. You know, it'll generally come with the same sort of stuff. Couple of swords, submachine gun, pistol. You know, it's all relatively standard on that front. But that's fine because you know, in the world of display, in the world of photography, the things you're going to want to do with your Dawn Moreno is kit her out with swords like she used in the comic books, kit her out with a submachine gun, to kit her out with a 9mm pistol. You know, so it all adds up. The only thing I think it's missing that I would have liked to have had is some closed fists, is some hand swaps with some closed fists. I feel like that's a little bit of an oversight. But other than that, it's fine. It's standard ninja gear, nothing new, nothing exciting. Just does what it says on the tin. And then, of course, you've got the head swap, which, you know, you had to have that head swap in here, really. That would have been a huge oversight if that wasn't in there. So I'm going to give it a thumbs up, but I'm coming down a little bit just because I feel like a bit repetitive. Although that's not really a criticism because, you know, this is the gear that she has. This is her gear, you know. So, all right, there you go. There's the accessories. Added value? Yeah, I think so. So let's now take a look at Dawn next to a couple of other G.I. Joe classified figures, shall we? And let's start the comparison with Dawn next to Jinx here, who she teamed up with a number of times in the comic book. Here she is next to Helix, who she also teamed up with a number of times. Here's Dawn next to, this is the Commando Snake Eyes, which I use in this instance as Sean Collins. Here she is next to a very bright Storm Shadow. And here she is next to her wave mate Overkill, who, spoiler alert, is going to be a review soon. And even more spoiler alert, I'm going to have a lot of things to say about his feet. Okay, folks, well, here's Dawn going around on the turntable so you can get a nice 360 look at the figure. And while you're eyeballing that, I'll offer up some final thoughts. And honestly, she's an interesting one because she is just a big old kind of basic slab of G.I. Joe Ninja. That, without a great deal else going on. You know, she's not particularly laden with novelty or anything new and interesting, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. As I said right at the top of the video, if you're looking for comic book accurate Dawn Moreno, then you've got a comic book accurate Dawn Moreno. Her loadout is accurate, albeit reuse boringy. Her look is comic book accurate, albeit kind of black and red ninja boringy. And so, even though I'm using the word boring, I've not found her a boring figure. I like the wacky ninjas in G.I. Joe, and she's another great wacky ninja to add to the collection. And there's other benefits, of course. You know, she's another female to build out the gender diversity in the line. She's a popular comic book character, always encouraged to see more kind of comic book inspiration coming into G.I. Joe Classified series. And, you know, she's actually got a lot of personality, considering how bland I've sort of described her. She's not, and she's got a lot of personality. I've been won over by this one. I really quite like it. But I am a fan of those later continuations of the G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero comics. So, you know, as balmy as they were, as many times as Dawn Moreno sliced through about 50 red ninjas or whatever. Without breaking a sweat. So, it all works in the grand scheme of things. It all works, and she's a great addition to the line, another wonderful named character for the G.I. Joe side of your shelf. And what more could you want? So, there we go. Okay, well, I hope this helped you make a purchase decision, folks. If you've been thinking about picking up Dawn for yourself, I hope I've given you enough information to know whether she's worthy of your cash. She's wobbling back and forth on my turntable there. I've not balanced her very well. Never mind. No time for a retake. So thanks for watching. Do all the YouTubey stuff if you found this useful. Otherwise, have yourselves a great day. Have yourselves a great week, and swing back around again for another video sometime soon. All right? Take it easy, folks. Facing the wrong way again.